Welcome everybody. Now today we want to continue from where we stopped, and basically we're going to be looking at the concept of Polyrepo in today's video. We've looked at the GitLab 0 to Hero. We've looked at this just a single project, and we've also looked at the concept of monorepo as well. Right, so here is the monorepo. I mean, that's the last video that we did. And basically, the difference between the monorepo and the polyrepo is just that for a monorepository, you have all your application code in just a single repository. That is what you refer to as a monorepo. Now, a polyrepo is basically you having all your application code in different repositories. So for the front end that you see here, we're going to create a repository for that. And for the product, we're going to create another repository for that also. And for shopping cart, you're going to have another repository for that. So each of the projects, so the front end is going to be its own repository, the product is going to be its own repository, and the shopping cart is also going to be its own repository. So that is the difference between a monorepo and a polyrepo. So monorepository, all your code are in the same repo. Polyrepo, each of the application code base is in a different repository. So that's just the difference between the two. So let's start here by first, we're going to create a group. So click on groups, and we're going to click on new group. Okay, and then we create a group. So here, I'm going to call the name of the group, let's just call it CI/CD Polyrepo. All right. So I'm going to call it CI/CD Polyrepository, and I'm going to make the group public as well. And that's all I need to do for now. And then I'll create a group. Now, once I have the group created, then I can start creating project inside of the group. All right. So here, I'm going to create a new project. And the new project is going to be a blank project, of course. And this is going to be the front end repo. All right. So I'm going to call this front end. And the project URL, of course, is going to be linked to this particular group. And that is also going to be public, right? And I really don't need to initialize any README file. Okay, and then I can create the project. All right, so the front-end application is going to, be in its own project. And then the product, the shopping cart, will also be in its own project as well. Now, what we can do is that since we have the front-end project, we can go over here to the Visual Studio Code, and I have my folder here, and I have each of the, application in different folders. So basically, this is going to be a project on its own. The product is going to be another project, and the shopping cart is also going to be another project, right? So here, what I'm going to do is I've changed the directory already into front end. All right, I've done that already. So what I'm going to do now is to basically initialize this folder, right? So I'm just going to say git init, okay, and then initial, branch. So that'll be initial branch should be equals to main. Okay, so let me spell that correctly. Okay, initial branch, should be equal to main. So I'm basically initializing this particular front-end repository, as, just creating a main branch, for that. Okay, so now I can go back here and follow whatever instruction that, I've been given right here. So the next thing I need to do here is to initialize my SSH key. Okay, so I'm going to come here, and grab this. So this is here. Okay, so just copy that. And then it's basically to start off the SSH agent, and then the next command is to add the key to the agent. So we're going to add the key to the agent. So you have to make sure you're using the correct key. So my own key is here. So I'm going to copy that. All right. And then I'm going to drop that here. Okay. So now I have my key added to the SSH agent. So the next thing I need to do is basically to follow this particular instruction. So here it tells you to push to an existing folder, right? So we already have a folder that we've created here. So the front end folder is what we've created. So that's the folder we are pushing to this front end project. All right. So basically, I'm going to follow these instructions. So here, I'm going to copy this to add the remote origin. All right. So I'm going to copy that and paste that here. And then the next thing I would do is to basically just say vi .git/config. Okay, so what I want to do with that is to basically add my user and my email, okay, so that I don't have to, run the git config, command every time. Okay, so I'm going to edit this, and then we'll basically come here, all right, and then open up a user bracket. Okay, so that's user. So the name of the user is, you can get that also from here. So the name of the user is this. All right, so I'm just going to pull that here. So let's check. All right, so that's correct name. And then the email. All right, the email address is awscloudpros@gmail.com. Right? So once you're done, you basically write and quit since we're using the VI editor. All right. So now the next thing we need to do according to the instruction that we have here is to add, commit, and then push to these, repository. So here I'm going to say git add, all right? We're in the front end folder, all right? So that folder is its own repository, all right? So we're working inside of that folder at the moment. So I'm going to do git add to, add that to my working area, and then git commit. So I'm basically just going to say, all right, front end app. Okay, so just a simple name actually, and then git push -u, and then you specify the origin. So the origin is main, right? And then we do that. So we shouldn't have any kind of issue. So you can see that here we've been able to push successfully to these repo. So if I do a refresh, okay, I should see my code, all right, committed here. So this is my code here, the GitLab CI, the Docker file, the index.html file, the server.json, everything that we've been using from before, all right? We've been able to push all of that right here. So we're going to do the same thing for product, all right, and shopping cart. So let's quickly see how we can go about all of that. So I'm going to click here and basically go back to the group. So here's the group. So I'm going to click on that. All right. And you can click on the group also from here, CI/CD Polyrepo, and then it shows you the project that you have in that group. So let's create another project. Okay. So, and that's going to be product. Okay. So this is going to be product. So let's see the names. I think it's product. So products. And that's also going to be public. I'm not initializing any README. We can update that later on, and then I would create the project. All right, so I have another project created for product. So let me go back here to my Visual Studio Code, and then I'm just going to change directory to the product folder, and then do the same thing we did with frontend, all right, with product as well. So I'm just going to do cd ... all right, product. Okay, so I'm now inside of the product folder. So I'm going to say git init, all right, -initial branch. Okay, so to basically just say this is the name of the branch that I want to be my initial branch. All right, so we do that basically. Now, in order to not assume anything, we're also going to initialize the key again, but then we can just give it a try. We've initialized the key is already running in the SH agent. So let's see if it's going to work and it's not going to give us any kind of challenge. Okay, so let's look at that. So here, I'm going to follow the same instruction that we already have. That's what we used earlier. And then I'm going to add the remote origin. So copy that. Now, if you pay attention, you will see that we are adding the origin using the SSH protocol because this is git@gitlab.com and then the name of the repo. So add that, and then we can do git add. All right, and then we can do git commit -m, and then we can call these, products. All right, project. Just any name for now. And then we do git push, all right, -u origin, and then the origin is main. So let's see if the key works. All right, so the key works. We didn't have to initialize the key all over again. So that's a good one there. So we can just click on the product, project to just refresh the whole thing. And as you can see here, all right, we have the code and everything in the product, project. All right. So again, we go again and do the same thing. So I'm going to click here on the CI/CD project, all right, or group, and then I have these two projects here. So I'm going to create a third one. All right, and that's going to be the shopping cart, right? So shopping -cart. So shopping, oops, that's double P, all right, -cart. So that's going to be the name of this project. It's going to be public also. We're not initializing the README, all right? So we're creating the project also. All right, so the same thing that we've done from before. So we're going to repeat the same thing practically, right? So this is going to be cd dot, all right, shopping cart. Okay. So now we're in the shopping cart folder. So we do the same thing, git init, all right, -initial branch equals to main. Okay. And then we'll come here again, all right, and basically just grab the remote add origin, copy that, drop that here, okay, and then do your git add, and then do your git commit. Okay, so we're going to just say shopping cart project. Okay, and then we do git push, all right, -u origin equals to main, right? So now we have pushed all of the project, okay, into their respective project on GitLab. All right, so we have for shopping cart, we have everything here. So if I go back to my group, I can see clearly that I have 3 projects, right? I mean, these are projects on their own, all right? And that is basically the idea behind Polyrepo. Okay, so basically you have independent project for every of your application code, right? They are not in the same repository, so they are you can manage the different repositories independently without affecting the other projects. I mean, that's just basically what the idea is about. So now we have this front end, we have product, we have shopping cart. And if you look at it here, I mean, we really don't have much. So we have the GitLab CI, nothing is there. You need to populate that. And then we have for the product also, the GitLab CI, we don't have anything there. And for the shopping cart also, we don't have anything right there. So we need to basically start writing our configuration files on how to push these particular projects, to the GitLab, and then of course build our pipeline. Now, the next thing I want us to look at is the fact that we're going to be deploying this project to a Kubernetes cluster. And we're going to be using DigitalOcean, all right, for that. Now, the reason why we're using DigitalOcean is because it is easier to create a Kubernetes cluster on DigitalOcean than it is on AWS, right? I mean, if you want to create it on AWS, there are a number of ways to do it, but of course, it still will take you a longer time to achieve it compared to, creating it on DigitalOcean, okay? And so that is why we're going with the DigitalOcean. Now, if you don't have an account on DigitalOcean, you can create one, okay, by just going to, let me open up a new tab. So you can click here, DigitalOcean, all right, you can click here. I mean, just like you would create, an account on any platform. The only thing also is that you need your credit card or your debit card in order to be able to go through with the account creation, right? Now, another thing that I want to mention here is that now, whether you're creating your Kubernetes on AWS or you're creating it on DigitalOcean, right, it is not the platform that really counts, right? I mean, it's the same concept. So Kubernetes is Kubernetes anywhere. All right. So the same Kubernetes you have in DigitalOcean is also the same thing that you have on AWS. So if you're comfortable with AWS, you can go ahead and create your Kubernetes cluster on AWS and follow whatever it is that we're doing. You're still going to get the same result at the end of the day. The only reason why I'm going with DigitalOcean is because it is easier, all right, to create a Kubernetes cluster on DigitalOcean than it is on AWS. And of course, for our use case, I don't think we need to go through all the process of creating an EKS cluster and all of that, right? So that's why I'm going with DigitalOcean. So If you want to create an account here, you can sign up with Google or with your GitHub account and just follow through all of the processes. Like I said, you're going to need your credit card or your debit card in order to pull through, all the setup, right? So just do that. So let me just show you how to create a Kubernetes cluster. So here, I'm logged in already. It's the first project. So we're going to come here. You can actually search, all right? And let's search for Kubernetes. I'm not sure. But here we can come here to manage, all right, and we can scroll down. So here you have Kubernetes. So click on Kubernetes, okay, and then so that will basically show you the page where you would, be able to create your cluster. All right. So here I'm just going to say create a Kubernetes cluster. All right. So of course you're going to have to choose your region. And of course, you have some GPUs available also now. You can also create a Kubernetes cluster using the GPU instance, all right? So here you can scroll down. So you have to choose the region that is closest to you. So for me, I'm just going to go with London, right? So let's just go with London here. I'm going to use all the default stuff that you have there, right? Default network and default everything. Okay, so let's just go with the default. So here it's asking you to select the Kubernetes version. So the latest version now is actually the 1.31. So let's go with that. I mean, it's the recommended version. So let's go with that. So here it's going to be your node pool. All right. You can leave the default, right, that we have here. You really don't have to change anything. I mean, it's just for demonstrating the purpose. Is not, so here you're going to go with the basic, the basic machine type that will give you the regular SSD. And the node plan, this is 36 cents per hour, all right, and that's about $24 a month. So let's see if we can find something way cheaper. So let's go with these 2 gig and 2 virtual CPU. I think that makes sense. So how many nodes do we want? Do we need more than 1 node? All right. I mean, here for a node, you're going to pay $27, right? 27 cents an hour, sorry. So I'm going to reduce this to 2. Okay, and that would basically equal to 5 cents an hour. So that means if we're able to do whatever it is that we want to do within the next maybe 2-3 hours, all right, then we shouldn't spend more than maybe just $1 or so, all right, or even less, than that. Okay, so that's pretty fine. Okay, so let's see what other options do we have. We don't need any high availability, so we can skip that. All right, and I think that's all that we have to do, right? So create a cluster. Now you can see that this is way easier, all right, than creating it on EKS. And that is the reason why I chose, to go this route. Okay. I mean, I could have gone the route of EKS, but that would take a lot of time. And I don't think we need to go through all of that stress, okay, in order to demonstrate what we want to do. All right. So this is going to get created. All right. And once this is created, of course, we would go over to see how to connect to the cluster and, start writing our pipelines configuration file. Okay. And see how to deploy, all right, to the Kubernetes cluster. I mean, we've been using Docker Compose to deploy to EC2. Okay. But then we're going to see how to deploy to a Kubernetes, all right, cluster to just basically help us understand how things, all right, are done when it comes to deploying your image, all right, to Kubernetes. Okay, so thank you so much. In the next video, we're going to just start right here, okay, and then see how the deployment will go. So thank you so much, and I'll see you, all right, on the next one.